Wanna really party? Try the K Special.
Gravity, no escaping. Gravity.
She looks metallic. Metallic, metallic, metallic.
Though I can't quite recall of the night's sensation.
Welcome to the shop. Tonight we're having a review of Season 13, Episode 11, aka the Soda Challenge, or Shit Show in a Can, as I like to call it. In this episode we have the elevation of Kandy, Muse, Rosé, and Symone at the expense of basically everybody else. We have more temporal incursion from future Rosé, Olivia's headed going completely downhill, the most rigged challenge in television history, because if you remember the improv challenge, it's going to be worse than that. So prepare yourself, don't get triggered, grab a drink, smoke a cigarette, eat something, stay calm. It's going to be just fine. And finally, our final speculation with our top 4, with their edit and the prototype that they embody for this season. Last episode, for the first time in this whole season, the queens were judged as a group. Why were they judged as a group? Well, because Denali had to go home, so Olivia had to drag her down, so they had to be judged as groups. A side effect of that is that Utica had to win with our hero Symone, so this episode is going to be all about throwing Utica down the proverbial drain, because she won last episode and we don't want the audience to think that she is a good queen. No, don't get it wrong. She has to go home very soon. So we are back in the workroom and immediately we are greeted by a temporal incursion from our usual spiky hair Rosé, the one that's been traveling in time from a distant point in the future to push storylines, tells us what's happening, convincing us of different things that we see on screen.
We're back in the workroom, and Denali, one of my closest friends in this competition, has sashayed away. We saw each other together in the top 4, and it sucks.
Immediately after our incursion, everyone asks Olivia, "Hey Olivia, how did you feel about the fact that everybody pointed at you?" The moment Olivia starts explaining herself, everybody is bitch-facing Olivia.
It's one of those things where I just don't take things personally. I moved to New York with that motto, it's just drag, and I know you girls, so I know it comes from a place of love.
Olivia is a very sweet girl. I love her to death. That's my little sister. But be the diva you are, there's no way you're gonna sit here and tell me that after 4 bitches say your name on the main stage, you're a cool, calm, and collective. Hell no. No way.
And of course, after this, Kandy Muse's confessional calling out Olivia. Kandy Muse can keep it real and put the final nail in the coffin. How nice is that? It's not even 5 minutes in and we're taking a huge dump on Olivia, the sweet queen who turned out to be a sneaky saboteur behind the scenes. You can have every sort of opinion about Olivia, but this much kind of edit to trash someone, that's where I called going a little bit over the limit, because I haven't even told you about the kind of music that you hear while Olivia is speaking, which is basically saying, oh, she's a piece of shit.
I just don't take things personally. I moved to New York with that motto, it's just drag, and I know you girls, so I know it comes from a place of love.
And if you doubt the power of music in reality television, then go watch a new video from Tentacruel, who just made a video about how the use of music in reality television manipulates viewers' perception. Moving on to our next section, This time, brace yourselves, we have a mini challenge. We really have a mini challenge. And the mini challenge is all fan service. It's all about Drag Race, past iconic queens, past iconic performances. It was really, really good. Of course, by the end of it, nobody gains anything because it's just, okay, you get some money to spend from one of our sponsors and whatever it is. But it's already a step forward because it's not a mini advertisement. But here as well, we have Kandy Muse, who somehow is asked the only question in this whole segment that has nothing to do with Drag Race.
Category is, that sounds like math. Addition and subtraction. You can handle that, can't you?
You do have $25,000.
25? I want 25,000?
Like 2, comma.
No.
2,500, baby. Just let it go.
Like 2, comma, 500.
Yeah, it's 2,500.
2,500.
Oh look, Kandy Muse is asked a math question and she looks like she doesn't know it. How relatable is that? This is the second moment where they elevate Kandy Muse. This time it's about relatability. So she's coming for Miss Cracker's gig, or as we like to call her, Miss Relatable. After the mini challenge, we find out the maxi challenge for this episode. The queens will have to write, act, and create a jingle and a commercial for a soft drink. It's one of the most promising challenges in all of Drag Race. I love this kind of challenges because, again, it's something creative, it's something stupid, it's something funny, and it's not something where the script was written by somebody else and assigned by the producers to every single queen. So they have full control of it. Well, full control. Until a certain point, because it's still an acting challenge, so you know the drill when it's about acting challenges. We don't really see the kind of rehearsal that they have. Things might have been cut out, things might have been highlighted to give us a specific impression, with the final product that we see on the main stage has been heavily edited, so we don't really know how effectively good or bad they were. So it's, you know, the usual acting challenge on RuPaul's Drag Race. Nevertheless, we're going to talk about it, especially about the way they have been criticized. After this, we move to rehearsal, and something happens in here. I'm sure that all of you noticed that some queens were given more directions than others. Other queens were given absolutely zero directions. Some queens only received laughs. But there is something that maybe not all of you noticed. At the beginning of each segment, you have Carlson and Ross asking each queen, "What is your can about? What does your soda do?" And each and every one of them is allowed to explain it. When it comes to Utica, magically, nobody asks her.
Tell us about your soda.
It's called Burnin' Up. Tell us about your beverage.
So my beverage is called Rosé.
So my soda pop is called Live.
Tell me about your soda.
My soda is called Sweet Tooth.
This soda puts you in a trance. It makes you feel like you're feeling your fantasy at the club, and it gives you your own VIP section in your mind.
What's it called?
The K Special.
We're excited to hear about your soda.
It's called Gottmik's Got Sex Juice.
Oh,
Hi, Utica.
So in my scene, I want to include Clara the cow
holy cow.
because she gave me a surprise visit in our psychic reading.
And action.
So you as a viewer already have no idea what a drink is supposed to do, but remember, by the time we get to the Cryptiques, you have to be kept in oblivion about what the hell does this drink make, because you have to be convinced that it's a shit show for Utica. Carlson and Ross whispered loudly how great Symone is. Yes, there is this segment that is completely out of the world when they watch Symone and they are basically climaxing during her performance.
She's so good. She's one of those people that can just say anything and it's gonna be good.
Get a room, you two, you three, whatever it is. Get a fucking room. after recording, we go back to the workroom and we're hit with another temporal incursion from Rosé. This time in a mismatched confessional. On the left, you see Rosé from this episode, and on the right, you see spiky hair Rosé. That comes again from the future to tell us something interesting about Tina Burner.
Tina, I think, is also a little sensitive because she hasn't won anything, and she's kind of just been doing the same thing the whole time. It's good, but kind of one note.
Does it sound familiar?
What I'm getting from you is a bit of predictability. When I saw you in kind of the 50s housewife thing, I was like, oh, great, again.
She is coming from the future to push a storyline about Tina. After this, we have a humanizing moment with Kandy Muse, in which she explained that she was gay bashed, which is no joke. And I don't want my critique of the way she's been portrayed to be misunderstood as not believing what's happening or demeaning what actually is happening to her. The funny thing is that it comes at the right moment, at the right time, in the right episode, because now she's opening up about the fact that she was basically a victim of an homophobic attack. So what happens? Of course, the producers are more than happy that this is happening right now. How curious. So our dear editors immediately bombard us with a mismatched confessional. We have green eyes Kandy Muse coming to us back from the Tamishas fight. If you remember, when she had 3 mismatched confessionals in less than 15 seconds. Cue the emotional music, cue the sad face, and most of all, cue the shilling from the show.
I was angry at the world. I didn't understand why I couldn't just be myself without people judging me. And even like with Tamisha, when me and her had that whole argument, I felt the need to defend myself. I came here so guarded because queens usually have a preconceived notion of who I am. And besides my drag house, I don't really have a lot of drag queen friends. But here in this competition, I've grown to have some amazing sisters.
You can say everything you want about Kandy Muse, but in this, she is really smart. She is like, yes, all of this happened to me, but thanks to this competition, I am making new friends. It's like, what the fuck? Can't you make friends outside of this? And she's not the only one. We have Rosé, who is shilling again from the show. It's like these queens are closed in a box. They never met any other drag queen, they never had any other friend. They had to wait all the 20-something years of their life to come to this competition and finally make friends and realizing the human side of drag queens that hides behind the mug.
I'm thrilled to have gotten to know you more, but to have seen that there's such a softer side to you. I mean, I see so much of who you are because of this competition, you know?
Thank you.
Have you tried going out for a drink with Kandy Muse? Because that does the exact same thing and you don't need to spend $50,000 in outfits in order to get that. The surreal part in all of this is that on one hand, I completely understand what Rosé and what Kandy Muse are doing. They are playing their role. They are doing what it's necessary to do to excel in this competition, which is smile, be nice, shill for the show, make it all about sisterhood, make it all about being nice, but you know, it's still an act. That is the problem with it. The heart is there in the message. The problem is that if you act it out, it's not effective. It looks like shilling, and if it looks like shilling, I watch it and I'm drawn out of the experience. I was watching all of this and thinking, what the fuck is going on? Is this an ad for RuPaul's Drag Race inside of RuPaul's Drag Race? Because then I go back to the mini challenge and thinking, oh shit, this episode really is a 1 hour long ad for RuPaul's Drag Race because it continues in Untucked. It's a constant message that we get bombarded throughout the whole episode. After this moment, we have one of the most surreal moments in the whole episode because we are intercepted with Tina Burner coming to defend Kandy Muse. And she goes through a confessional. Remember, all of these queens are seeing that Kandy Muse is bombing in the competition. They are there. They see that she lip-synced twice and she didn't know the words, and she was saved both times. They know exactly which kind of game is being played here. They know that Kandy Muse is going to get a redempted villain at it, and she's been pushed to the top. So it's in their best interest to go with that kind of storytelling if they want to last. Because if they start calling it out, they will be cut out from the show immediately. So I'm not saying they are being disingenuous when they support Kandy Muse and the things she's been going through. I'm just saying that that kind of behavior is heavily incentivized by the fact that they are in this kind of show with this kind of editors.
Kandy is great because she's able to take a step back and look at the situation and herself and learn from it and like apologize and want to have a conversation.
Kandy is able to take a step back. Kandy is able to learn. Kandy is able to apologize. Kandy has a want to open a conversation after difficult situations happens, and Kandy has a heart. Dear God, that is a fucking mouthful, and I'm not doubting the fact that the real person behind Kandy Muse might really have this quality. You know, when it comes to these queens, I always give them the benefit of the doubt, because you never know what goes on with the editing. But we saw fucking Kandy Muse on Twitter this whole time. She has a paper-thin skin. She goes out for everyone that calls her out. She is constantly attacking any kind of fans, even those who are in good hearts, and say, listen, Kandy, but this thing that you did was not really good. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? She called people from Australia, people from the third world, because they had, how is it called? They had a lack of water. She called them from the third world. It was deleted. She apologized for that. So you see, I'm on board with the apologizing things, but it's not like... When I think about Kandy Muse, from what I see from her social media, I don't think of a person who is there to open a conversation so that she can learn from her mistakes. I mean, it's Kandy Muse. It's a different experience. Some people live for it. Personally, I don't care for it. It's not interesting for me. But she is definitely doing something. And we all know that it's always very dramatic. This is her brand. You know, after all of this that Tina tells us through a confessional, the impossible happens. We have a Franken sentence from Tina, because after saying that Kandy can step back, Kandy is able to learn, Kandy is able to apologize, Kandy wants to open a conversation, Kandy has a heart, she has to say that she loves Kandy. And it is so obvious that it boggles my mind that there was somebody in the editing room that did this and thought, oh yes, it works, it's perfect, nobody will notice. Nobody will notice.
And want to have a conversation. That's why I love Kandy. Because she is a force to be reckoned with, and she has a personality, but she can have heart. That's why I love Kandy. That's why I love Kandy. That's why I love Kandy.
We are not that stupid. So this is the second push that we get for Kandy Muse. We're going to have a third. In all of this, because, you know, this episode, it's not just about shilling for RuPaul's Drag Race, it's also about pushing storylines and pushing contestants. So we have to have Gottmik laughing at one of Rosé's joke, because by the end of this episode, she will have to win this challenge as well. Even though the scene after, we see that the makeup in her eye is already completed. So who knows what she was laughing at? Nobody knows, but you know.
We're safe here, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if the judges say, you're safe.
You're
So-
safe.
So stupid.
Oh my god, this episode was a shit show. If you take this too seriously, you're going to get triggered. Let's get to the main stage and the Cryptiques. And the runway was Beast Couture, aka furries on the runway, if, you know, that's what gets you rolling. Let's go to the Utica. The Cryptiques for Utica were that she didn't know what she did, that they didn't get the typical quirky joy up until the end, so basically she was not on brand. Then Michelle loved the quirky, but it was too far gone and it made no sense. And in addition, she can't harness her own creativity, so apparently Her commercial was not creative. For the runway, the only critique that we get is from Michelle, because she was not blown away. It's nice, but we've seen before. And we are already introduced to this theme for this Cryptique, which is you cannot do the same thing. So on one way, they have to be on brand, but they also have to be different in the way they are on brand, which is an exploding mixture, because basically they can do whatever they want. To some, they will say, you are on brand. To some other, they will say, you were too much on brand. It wasn't different enough. Now, we've all seen this commercial. And if you know who Utica is, I think it was absolutely on brand, because it was out of this world. It was quirky, it was stupid, it was over the top. It's absolutely quintessential Utica. So for me, it was on brand. All in all, her commercial was like middle of the pack for me. But definitely not the shit show that the judges are trying to make it look like, because yes, it was on brand, yes, the quirkiness was there, and telling me that it wasn't doesn't change the fact that I have a pair of eyes. I saw the commercial, it was quirky and it was stupid. They didn't say anything about the fact that it was funny, because that was part of the Cryptiques for everybody else. Is it funny? Because for me, yes, it was funny. I had a good chuckle watching it. And of course, there is no mention of her makeup on the runway, because her makeup is really good, and by the end of this, she has to be in the bottom. So we better shut the fuck up about how amazing her makeup is for this runway. And after this, we jump on to Kandy Muse. They eat her up from top to bottom, because they go like, oh Kandy, your commercial was so funny. You have a personality that can sell anything. And I'm like, no. She doesn't have a personality that can sell anything. I have social media. She is not selling, well, she is technically selling her merch, so I don't know, maybe that's what they meant, I don't know. Then they had so much fun watching Kandy Muse, and she was just so funny, and she told a great story with her commercial. I don't remember any story being told in her commercial. To me, it made no sense, and it was absolutely not on brand, because don't forget, you might like or dislike Kandy Muse, but she knows her brand, and her brand is drama. It has been drama for the past 3 years. Everyone knows that, and she knows that everyone knows it, and she's mastering her brand in a very effective way on social media. So what is this thing? Feeling of being in a VIP club? No, Kandy, that's not on brand. Your brand is drama and illusion. You know it works, you know how to use it outside of it. This was not it. So already Kandy is not on brand. Then they tell us absolutely nothing how creative it actually was, because there was no creativity whatsoever. There was no difference, no before and after. Remember, we had it with Utica, we had a before and we had an after. You are depressed and you are completely high on one side. Kandy Muse is the same note, but of course we are told absolutely nothing about that. We have no comment on her jingle, thank God, because the only one that's going to be praised for her jingle will be Symone, because she's the hero. It was no fun for me. She basically hit no marks. I didn't understand what it was supposed to be. She had to be in the bottom for this challenge. Look at the runway. What is that? That doesn't read Beast Couture. That reads like I had $10 and I had to fucking prepare something in 2 days. But the Cryptiques tell us, yes, it made no sense, the runway was ridiculous, but we loved it. And then everybody laughs. Kandy Muse can fuck it up and we can just say, oh yes, but it was funny. It's Kandy Muse, she's our redempted villain. And you know what the problem is in all of this? That people are going to hate Kandy Muse because of this. Because already she has this kind of personality that she will come for you no matter what. She has this kind of brand that it's all about drama, and now this. She is constantly pushed down our throat as this nice person that can be allowed to skate through the competition, because she is the only one bringing any sort of drama in this show. Because apparently this show is all about drama. It's not about the art of drag anymore. It's not about the talent of these people. It's not about their personal stories. It's about drama. You might believe this and you might not believe this, but I really can relate to Kandy Muse. But this kind of environment is not going to help you. What is going to help you is people giving you suggestions and you learning to listen. You cannot be complacent with yourself, and you have no use for people who are complacent with you. So she's basically been used throughout this whole season so that she can carry the season, and then she will be thrown down the trash. And you might like her, you might not like her, but at the end of the day, she's still a fucking person. Moving on. They completely destroyed Tina during this Cryptiques, because the point is, Tina has to go home this episode. Whatever it is that they had going on with Tina was completely done. She had her emotional moments, her humanizing moments, so we know she has to go home this episode. The problem is that they're going to pull all the stops in order to make it look like a shit show. Tina's can is called Burn It Up, and hell yeah is what you say after drinking it. Now, the Cryptiques for Tina are that she was predictable. She was the housewives. And we've seen that before. And what they wanted was an improved version of her brand. And some people, Kandy Muse, weren't even on brand. And she was too comfortable in her lane. She tried too hard without succeeding. And I was like, without succeeding? Her commercial was the only one that was funny for me. She really thought it all up. There was a clear distinction in the before and after. She brought in hot topics and make fun of that, like the fact that people are stuck in marriages without sex. She had this moment where her partner is whipping her to force her to drink the drink. So that she can transform into this sex bomb, and it was hilarious to me. I don't know if I have a fucked up sense of humor, but it was hilarious to me. The fact that she had someone whipping her up and say, drink. You drink the drink and become a slut. I think it was really thought out. This is the one that is going to be iconic for me, without any doubt. It was stupid, it was thought out, it had a funny message, it was well acted. They had to go so hard on Tina because this commercial was too good. It checked all the marks. So they had to go for the surreal. You are too comfortable in your brand. We need to see you evolving with your brand. And they continue. She was not elevated, which shows no growth. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? All of this show is about establishing a brand. What Tina is doing in the show, it's exactly what you have to do outside of the show. People have to recognize you. People have to know who you are. And it has to be done in a simple and effective way. Otherwise, all of them should have gone on this episode because nobody brought any kind of improved version of their brand. And then they go for the runway. And thankfully, for the runway, they are nice about it. But this is not going to be enough to save her from the bottom because they say it's fun, it's a surprise, it's not too much on brand, but the makeup is not good enough. Moving on to our hero, Symone. I enjoyed her commercial. To me, it was funny. It was nothing new, because it was the usual attitude that we get from Symone. It wasn't elevated, it wasn't something new, it wasn't the next level of her branding, it was the usual Symone that we get. I see no problem with that, but of course it had to be a critique for Tina, because somehow, you know, we have to apply different standards to different queens. If you critique one for being always the same, you also have to critique the other for being always the same. They ate her up on that runway. She was the only one who had her jingle brought up, because RuPaul sang her jingle. And they told her that she was on brand, her head was cohesive, she got it, she was at ease with her performance, and she knows what she wants with her brand, and she takes pride in who she is. And I'm like, what the fuck are you saying? I think her was the second best commercial after Tina this episode, because to me it was effective. They could have simply gone for things like, it was funny, it was thought out, we laughed with it, it was a good idea, it worked. You know, they could have said so many things. Instead, we are hit with this load of bullshit. And most of all, Symone didn't have any difference between the before and after. This was a constant theme for everybody. But since this doesn't really apply to her because she has no before and after, she was told nothing about this. And since Tina had a very good before and after, they said nothing about it either. But of course we have to go to the runway because furry Symone left them with their jaw wide open. Because Symone knows who she is. I don't know what kind of fucking critique is this. You know who you are. Yes, it's a runway. It's a dress. There is makeup. What the fuck does it mean? That you know who you are. I mean, what is this? What the fuck is this? And then the cherry on top, they told her, compared to Tina, your runway was elevated. Because, you know, every chance is good to take a dump on Tina Burner. And this is the only time that it happens. They really go. And they show Tina as well. It's like compared to Tina Burner. Oh, for fuck's sake. What do we think? What do we think of the runway? I liked her runway. I have to kind of agree with the judges that it fit nicely. Oh my god. The problem is, it didn't scream. It didn't scream beast to me. To me, it screamed sex in an elevator at a furry convention. That's how I read her fucking outfit. Oh my god. Moving on to Gottmik. Gottmik was really, really the worst. Her can was called Gottmik Got Sex Sex Juice. I mean, what kind of fucking brand is that? Nobody will remember that. It's too long, it's not effective, it's badly done. Her cryptiques are that there was no separation in the before and after, which is a real cryptiques. I agree with that. It wasn't applied to other people, but you know, at least this is a real critique. Now they go on and say that the commercial didn't work, that the name was terrible, there was no difference in the before and after, and she was the same person all of the time. And all of this absolutely worked for me. This is probably the only critique I actually agree with, because the commercial was not funny. You can add as many fart jokes as you want, it doesn't necessarily make it funny. The only saving grace for Gottmik is the runway. The runway, for me, it was the best one out of all of them. The makeup is absolutely stunning, but of course we knew that she is a great makeup artist. The dress that she has, it screams beast to me. It's really the best runway, and this is the only saving grace. And she is recognized by the judges because of this. A lot of people are saying Gottmik should have been in the bottom because of this. If we only look at the commercial, I completely agree with it. But her runway was the best. So that for me positions her in the low range, not in the bottom range. The worst one out of all of them, without any doubt, for me, it was Olivia. One thing that we have to absolutely say is that she had a more difficult job than everybody else because she doesn't have a brand. Nobody, not even Olivia, knows yet what her brand is. She is still maturing as a queen, so she had a harder job than everybody else. So what is she going to go for? She's going to go for smiling. Her can is called Live, and it will make you smile. That's the commercial. It's already a failure. It's dead on arrival. And her cryptiques, which mostly I agree with, but they could have hit harder. They say that she always looks happy, and that is a problem because she has no separation in the before and after. Let's talk about the fact that this was also edited. She received directions in this. She didn't receive any direction telling her in the beginning, don't smile in the beginning of the segment, like they told her for the middle segment. So in a way, she was kind of thrown under the bus. But one of her critique was, there is no separation in the before and after. Then she didn't sell it. She didn't do a good job. My god, she didn't sell it. Well, it's a can. She has to sell it. Okay, so let's take it literally. She didn't sell it. She didn't do a good job. Her brand felt generic, and that she doesn't know her brand. Hello, It's Olivia. She's a young queen. Of course, she doesn't have a brand. Who gave her the fucked up idea to go for smiling as her brand? You know what would have really worked for me? Olivia is smart. Olivia is not stupid, and she knows exactly what she's doing. She is kind of a little bit shady when nobody is noticing. We saw that happening with Utica. So for me, what would have worked 100% with Olivia was a can called Saboteur. You know, with the French pronunciation, Saboteur. The can that will transform you into a piece of shit of a person. Too much of a boring life is being nice, making you too stiff. There is no problem. Drink Saboteur and you will immediately transform into a huge piece of shit, able to take a dump on everybody else. I thought it would have been a genius idea if she went for something like this. Unfortunately, she went for this can called Live or whatever it is. Basically, her journey that is portrayed in the commercial is finding the meaning of life. And the meaning of life, once you drink Live, is smile, laugh, and forget your problem. It makes no sense. It was not thought out, it was not effective, it was not original, and the worst sin that she did in this commercial is that it was not funny. This is RuPaul's Drag Race. Everything has to be stupid. This is what we love. This is what we like. Make fun of yourself. She had a golden opportunity, if you asked me, in this challenge. Too bad that she was not aware and bold enough to actually embrace the dark side of the force. Olivia, for me, should have been right in the bottom next to Kandy, because both did a terrible job. And I don't give a shit about the fact that they edited that laughing track. I don't give a shit about the fact that the Cryptiques from Kandy were all about, oh, it's fun, it's fun, it's fun. No, I didn't laugh. Nobody laughed. Nobody laughed. Is the bus still running? Stopped being fun already 10 years ago when Shangela made her music video for Working Girl. And finally, let's move on to our last queen, Rosé. I liked Rosé's commercial. To me, it was unoriginal. It looked like a bad ripoff of Alaska's Red for Filth and Jinx Delusion Convince Yourself commercial. It was a blend of the two, but a bad version of the blend of the two. She's branding herself as this quirky comedy queen, but to me it's not really working. The only thing that was working was that fucking fantasy robe that she is wearing. That is absolutely genius. That is genius for Rosé. And the runway. I loved the runway. She was absolutely the second best after Gottmik. The makeup was incredible. It was really original. It was not necessarily on brand, so that's okay with the Cryptiques that they decided for this episode. It was really, really good. The commercial was kind of middle of the pack for me, most of all because I didn't really have fun watching it. But she did hit all of the marks. And the Cryptiques recognize her for this. Why is she recognized by this? Because she has to win, of course. So she gets proper Cryptiques. She was funny, she was smart, she showed a playful side, she was a joy to work on set, and I'm thinking, what the fuck are you saying? You are critiquing the commercial, not how much fun you had filming. Then they said that it was good branding, and they understood what she did. She did a good job. She had a very good before and after. We understood the transition. Did she deserve to win? Well, that is debatable, but I'm more inclined to think that yes than no, because it was middle of the pack, but it was on the high side for me. Because you also have to take into account the runway. The runway was absolutely fantastic. Let's move on to the final speculation for this season. Now, based on the edit, based on the confessional chart, based on everything that we observed from the beginning of the season, this is our final top 4. As a fashion-forward queen, the young and talented, the usual queen who is between 21 and 24 years old, we have Gottmik. The second one is Symone, portrayed as, you know, the obligatory queen of color who has not to be portrayed as a villain, because, you know, there is such a thing as marketing research and audience research. So these two are the queens that we've been speculating for a long time as the top 4 and my first 2 picks for the top 4. Headed is the professional, the queen who doesn't get herself too much about drama, the queen who always brings an element of professionalism to the show. She is always on point, she's always ready. Think about Chad Michaels, because she was the very first queen who was portrayed with that specific role. Then we have Kandy Muse as the obligatory big girl, because we always have one. Headed is the redempted villain. It was really badly done. The editors and the producers did a terrible job with Kandy Muse. It's not that she doesn't have redemption quality, but the story being told, it was told in an awful way. It was not effective, it was not convincing, it was a shit show. Nevertheless, she is the redempted villain for the season and the 3rd queen in the top 4. The 4th queen, finally, as the campy and fashionable one, is going to be Rosé. As you know, we had a doubt if it was going to be Rosé or it was going to be Olivia. But since Olivia has been thoroughly thrown under the bus this episode and Rosé was elevated once more, there is the fact that she's been time traveling throughout the whole season. What did happen with Rosé? I think that at some point they decided and they think, okay, Rosé, we're not going to trigger her, but she is our pick for the top 4. So you know what, Rosé, please come back and film all this bunch of confessionals referring to every single episode as if you are narrating, as if you are pushing all the storylines that we have for this show, so you have to say this, 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 and this. Rosé is our final pick for the top 4. We are left with Utica and Olivia. Who is going home? I think that without a doubt, Utica is going to go home before Olivia, because at this point she has a much worse track record. Her Headed went downhill since the last 6 episodes, so I think that Utica is definitely going home next episode. And through the magic of editing, I'm here in real time. Sorry if this episode came a little bit later. I had a really busy couple of weeks and not all of the predictions that we actually did during the live streams are included in this video, but you know, at this point, after episode 12 already came out, it's really not that important. So thank you so much for our patron for supporting the channel, and if you like what we do, please consider supporting us directly. The video for episode 12 will come out in 2 or 3 days, I hope before episode 13 actually airs. In any case, see you back on Sunday for the live stream, and have a great week.